Hey there, Ruthhaven Grounds family. Today I'm diving into something that shocked me this past winter, and I need to share this with you because it could save your soil from the mistake I made. We all know that feeding our soil microbes is crucial, especially during those cold months when our garden beds are resting. But here's the thing. Not all sugar sources are created equal, and one of my well-intentioned experiments went horribly wrong. I'd been using molasses for years as a microbial food source, and honestly, I thought I was doing everything right. Then this past winter, curiosity got the better of me. I decided to split test honey against molasses in my raised beds to see which one would better support my soil life through the dormant season. What happened next taught me one of the most valuable lessons in my gardening journey, and it's something I wish someone had told me before I inadvertently crashed an entire ecosystem. Before we get into the dramatic showdown, let's talk about what's actually happening in your winter soil. Even when your garden looks dead and dormant, there's an incredible universe of activity happening beneath the surface. Bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and beneficial nematodes are all working together in a complex food web, breaking down organic matter and preparing nutrients for spring. During winter, this microbial community slows down, but doesn't stop completely. Think of it like your garden going into energy-saving mode. The microbes are still there, still functioning, just at a reduced pace. They need food to survive these lean months, which is why many of us add simple carbon sources to keep them ticking over until spring arrives. I'll be honest with you, I've been Team Molasses for a long time. Blackstrap molasses specifically became my go-to winter soil amendment about 5 years ago. I'd dilute about 2 tablespoons per gallon of water and drench my beds every 3 to 4 weeks throughout winter. The results were consistently impressive. When spring rolled around, my soil would come alive faster than my neighbors' gardens. I'd see earthworm activity earlier, my transplants would establish quicker, and that beautiful, crumbly soil structure would be ready weeks ahead of schedule. Molasses is packed with minerals like iron, calcium, magnesium, and potassium. It feeds bacteria particularly well, and those bacteria become food for larger organisms in the soil food web. The bacterial bloom from molasses also produces beneficial byproducts. As they metabolize those sugars, they create organic acids and enzymes that help break down organic matter and make nutrients more available. I was seeing darker, richer soil every spring, and my plant vigor reflected that healthy underground ecosystem. So naturally, when I heard other gardeners talking about using honey as a soil amendment, I was intrigued. Honey has antimicrobial properties, sure, but in dilute solutions, some folks claimed it could stimulate beneficial microbes while suppressing pathogenic ones. The logic seemed sound, so I decided to test it myself. I took 4 of my raised beds and divided them into 2 groups. Beds 1 and 2 got my usual molasses treatment throughout winter. Beds 3 and 4 received honey instead, diluted at the same ratio I'd been using for molasses. I kept everything else identical, same watering schedule, same mulch layer, same cover crops planted in fall. By late February, I started noticing something was off with the honey beds. The soil surface looked different, almost crusty in places. When I pushed aside the mulch, there wasn't the same earthy smell I expected. It was more neutral, almost sterile smelling. But I didn't panic yet. I figured maybe honey just worked differently. When March arrived and I began preparing beds for spring planting, the full scope of the disaster became clear. I grabbed my broad fork and started working through bed 3, and immediately I knew something was catastrophically wrong. The soil that should have been loose and friable was compacted and lifeless. There were almost no earthworms. None. In a bed that the previous spring had been teeming with them. I dug deeper, literally and figuratively, sent soil samples to my local extension office for analysis. The microbial biomass in the honey-treated beds had crashed by over 70% compared to the molasses beds. The fungal networks, which are crucial for nutrient transport and soil structure, were virtually non-existent. It was like I'd sterilized the soil. Here's what I learned through research and consultation with soil scientists after my failed experiment. Honey's antimicrobial properties don't discriminate between good and bad microbes when applied to soil. While honey is amazing for wound healing and preservation precisely because it inhibits microbial growth, those same properties make it terrible for soil application. Honey contains hydrogen peroxide, has low water activity, and maintains an acidic pH between 3.2 and 4.5. In your garden soil, even diluted, these factors create an environment that suppresses microbial activity across the board. You're essentially creating zones of microbial inhibition rather than stimulation. The beneficial bacteria that break down organic matter, fix nitrogen, and create soil aggregates can't thrive in these conditions. The mycorrhizal fungi that form symbiotic relationships with plant roots get disrupted. The entire food web that your soil depends on gets thrown into chaos. Molasses, on the other hand, is a microbial superfood without the antimicrobial baggage. It's a complex mixture of sugars, minerals, and vitamins that bacteria in particular absolutely love. When you add diluted molasses to your soil, you're essentially ringing the dinner bell for beneficial microorganisms. The sugars in molasses are readily available, meaning bacteria can quickly metabolize them and reproduce. This bacterial bloom has cascading effects through the food web. Protozoa feed on the bacteria, releasing nitrogen in plant-available forms. Bacterial feeding nematodes increase in population. The whole system becomes more active and robust. The mineral content in blackstrap molasses also directly benefits your soil chemistry. That iron, magnesium, and calcium don't just feed microbes, they become incorporated into the soil complex, improving nutrient availability and buffering capacity. It's a win-win situation that honey simply cannot replicate. It took me an entire growing season to rehabilitate those honey-damaged beds. I had to inoculate them with compost from my healthy beds, basically performing a microbial transplant, you know? I added extra worm castings, stopped all honey applications immediately, and went right back to my molasses protocol. I also incorporated actively aerated compost tea every 2 weeks during spring and early summer, which really helped re-establish the bacterial and fungal populations more quickly. By late summer, the beds were recovering, but honestly, they never quite caught up to the molasses beds that season in terms of production and plant health. If you want to support your soil microbes through winter, stick with molasses. Here's my proven protocol. Use unsulfured blackstrap molasses at a ratio of 1 to 2 tablespoons per gallon of non-chlorinated water. Apply this solution to your beds every 3 to 4 weeks when soil temperatures are above freezing and the ground isn't frozen solid. I always apply it in the morning so the solution has time to penetrate before evening temperatures drop. But don't overdo it. More is definitely not better. Too much sugar can actually cause a bacterial bloom so intense that it temporarily ties up nitrogen as the bacteria reproduce and consume available nutrients. Pair your molasses applications with good mulching practices. A 3 to 4 inch layer of shredded leaves or straw protects your soil microbes from temperature fluctuations and provides additional carbon as it slowly decomposes. The combination of molasses feeding and mulch protection creates ideal conditions for winter soil life. The biggest lesson from my honey versus molasses disaster is this. Your soil is not a chemistry set where you can substitute ingredients at will. It's a living ecosystem with specific needs and sensitivities. What works in one context, like honey as an antimicrobial for preservation, can be devastating in another, like using honey as a supposed soil amendment. Before you add anything to your soil, really take the time to research how it actually affects soil biology, not just soil chemistry. Talk to other gardeners, consult extension resources, and when in doubt, start small. Test new amendments in one bed before rolling them out across your entire garden. Your winter soil care sets the foundation for your entire growing season. Those microbes working away beneath the snow and frozen ground are your partners in creating abundant harvests. Feed them right with molasses, protect them with mulch, and they'll reward you with vibrant, productive soil come spring. If this article saved you from making the same mistake I did, or if you've learned something valuable about winter soil care, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future videos and articles where I share the real, unfiltered truth about what works and what doesn't in the garden. Share this with your fellow gardeners who might be considering honey as a soil amendment. Together we can build healthier gardens and avoid the pitfalls that come from well-intentioned but misguided experiments. What's your winter soil feeding strategy? Drop a comment and let me know if you've used molasses or if you've had your own soil amendment disasters. We're all learning together here at Ruth Haven Grounds, and your experiences help the whole community grow. Keep growing, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next one.